Jamie. To see you tomorrow, sister. Bambi, Sierra. Oh my gosh, all my ladies. It's so good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. Hello, hello, hello. So, hey, if you're joining on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, pop a comment. Let me know you're here. That's how I know. And I'm just curious, incognito where I don't know your name, but welcome. I'm so glad you're here. So I'm just curious, as you all pop in, if you've been on the series so far, what is your biggest takeaway? What has your biggest takeaway been so far about releasing resistance? And if you're new to this series, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. This has been one of the things that has been most transformational in my life in terms of learning an easier way to create what I wanted, because I thought it had to be really hard for so long. And I know a lot of the people who I get to coach and just talk to, like you all have had that experience as well, where you think, like we get this conditioning that it has to be hard, making money, finding love, sales, whatever it is. We get this conditioning that it has to be hard, and it doesn't. And actually, the harder we think it has to be, of course, the harder it is, because that becomes our belief system. But it does not have to be that way. The more we can release resistance and let it be easy, the more we get what we want faster. Jan, I'm glad you told me that's your name. It's so good to have you. We've got David in the house. Mallory, I'm so glad you're here. Bambi saying your biggest takeaway has been energy and emotional feelings go along with the asking. Yeah, I love it. I used to, like, I heard about affirmations way back in the day, and I was like, I'll just affirm, 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 but I never felt anything. And I had no idea that that was actually the key. It's like you have to have, Dr. Joe Dispenza says, that clear intention coupled with that elevated emotion. And then you start to bring in the thing that you desire and that you want. So that elevated emotion is critical. And we're talking in this series about how do we release resistance, because that resistance is not that elevated emotion, right? Your resistance is telling God and the universe that you don't have the thing that you want. So again, you don't get what you want, you get what you are, which is why we want to figure out how do we release resistance and learn to just be in flow and grateful and in that receptive mode. David's saying his biggest takeaway has been not getting so hung up on the how and focusing more on the desire and what our feelings will be when we have it. Yes, 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 yes. I love that. Mallory's saying cutting out consumption of things that put me in a suffering state. Oh my gosh, you guys are so good. Yes, 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 I love it. Okay, so let's talk about tonight. And I've got one kind of opening thought for you. And then I've got two different practices for you tonight, assuming my baby monitor doesn't die. If it does, I have one for you, and we'll do two on Monday night. Okay. So I've had a few women who I'm working with in private coaching reach out to me this past week to say, like, they're noticing, like, now that they're aware of this stuff, because a lot of times we're just not even aware of our emotional state and the fact, like, we just don't know that that's our body's way of telling us what frequency we're at and what we're a match for. And so once you become aware of it, though, you're like, oh, wow, I can't unknow this. And you may find, especially as you start to learn this stuff and you focus on feeling good, again, knowing that you have to focus on feeling good, and we do live in time lag, so stuff will start to shift and transform before you, but every seed has a gestation period. So there's going to be a period of time where you're feeling good, but nothing has changed in your physical space yet. But anyway, I digress. So you start to feel good, and then you notice the dips more prominently. Have any of you noticed that? Like, you're like, oh, I'm feeling this. Like, I'm starting to feel what it's going to be like when I have this thing, whether it's this dollar amount or whether it's this relationship. And then you notice that drop, right? And so I just wanted to explain what that is, because we can go into like panic about it. We can go into nervousness about it. Oh, hey, Kim, how are you? I'm so glad you're here. And I just want you to know it's normal. It is normal. Mallory's like, yes, I've had this happen. Yeah, it's totally normal. So a few things to keep in mind. Number one of the universal laws is the law of rhythm. So all that means is everything on this planet, everything in our world, there is a rhythm to it. So you think about the tide comes in, the tide goes out. You wouldn't want the tide to just keep coming in, because there'd be a big flood, right? So there is this natural, it's like the swing of the pendulum, right? There's this natural law of rhythm. So sometimes you're going to feel on top of the world, and sometimes you're not. But the key is to not make yourself wrong for it, because here's why sometimes we don't. Like, if you believe that everything is happening for you, which I do, in those times where you don't feel on top of the world, what it's helping you do is it's actually helping you better refine what you want. And that's part of the teaching in this book that we're studying with this series, Ask and It's Given, is that those times when you don't feel as good are contrast, right? So we just call them contrast. And it's kind of like when you don't have as much money as you want and you start to really, really want money, right, to pay the bills, to do what you want, that's actually sharpening your desire and focusing your desire for more money. When do you think about wanting to feel really good? It's when you're in more pain, right? So those times are actually working for you to help you really sharpen your desires. So I think one of the keys is to not make yourself wrong. So I hope that helps. Like, again, it's all happening for you. It's the contrast helps you. You're always either sharpening your desire, which means you're in some contrast, which means you don't feel as good, or you're experiencing the fulfillment of your desire. It's always one of the two. That's it. And we have to have both. Like, I've been in a bit of like I was in the fulfillment of the desire. I've been in more of like a sharpening of the desire phase lately. And it's okay because I know law of rhythm, what has to come after this, as long as I just stay focused on what I want and focused on feeling good, the fulfillment of the desire has to come. So the key is like, just let it be. The more you try to resist it and push against it, the more it's going to intensify. But the other thing just to keep in mind is when you're never going to be in full control of your outer state. And when you try to be in full control of your outer state, that's going to put you into panic, fear, because we can't control other people. I wish I could just tell other people what to do and let them all line up to serve me, right? No, it doesn't work that way. We can't control other people. We can't totally control our circumstances, but you can learn to control your inner state. And the more you learn to control that, the more you will start to like your outer state, because your outer state is always a reflection of your inner state. Okay. Again, though, it's time lag. So you got to give things time to percolate. Right now, your outer state is just a reflection of your thinking, feeling, actions up until this point. So if you've been having lower vibe thinking, feeling, actions, that's what you got. But tonight, one of the things we're going to talk about is you can change it like that. Like, you can really change it like that, and it can happen fast. The outer changes can happen fast when you use some of what we're talking about. But start really paying attention to your thoughts, and pay attention if you start not feeling good in your body and you start to notice that your vibration is lowering, your emotions are lowering, just get curious and ask, oh, what's the thought? Okay, I feel kind of crummy right now. Like, I noticed my emotion dropped, my vibration dropped. What's the thought I was just thinking? And usually it's going to be something that's a thought that's no longer serving you, a thought that's not actually in alignment with what you'll be thinking as the person who has the thing you want to have. So that's an opportunity where your subconscious is bringing a limiting belief up to the forefront for you to start to dissolve. Okay, so that's all it is. That's all it is. So I'm just going to check. Okay, so on LinkedIn, Kim is saying your biggest takeaway has been attaching emotions to your affirmations. Yes, 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 yes. It's a big one, and we often aren't taught it, but it's like half of the puzzle is learning how to do that. So I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, 2 processes for tonight that I want to teach you. Number 1, pull out the old handy book. So remember, if you don't have your download yet, EliseArcher.com/resistance, you will get your free download there. So pull that up, because we're using, I should say what the download is, the emotional guidance scale. So you want to use that as we go along in these chapters. Where is this bad boy? Okay, process 3, the creative workshop. But you want to have that for reference as we talk through this. So tonight we're talking through the 3rd and 4th processes that they teach. Creative workshop is process number 3. Okay, so when do you use this? You use it, so you're still feeling good with this one. Like, this is one to use when you're feeling good and you want to milk it and you want to speed up the manifestation of what you want. Okay, so you use it when you want to focus upon what's most important to you, when you want to be more in deliberate control of the primary areas of your life, when you want to improve your state of allowing so that even more wonderful things can come in, or when you want to practice, language, I'll try to translate, when you want to practice a positive point of attraction until it becomes a dominant point of attraction. So really what this is like, you're feeling good and you want to get more specific about that feeling good. So you draw in the things you want in the areas of life that are most important to you. I hope that makes sense. Your emotional set point range, you would do this when you're between 1, which is peak emotion, right? Joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, appreciation, and 5, optimism. So the ones we've been talking through so far, so we're at 3 processes now if you joined from the start. They've all been for when you're in that range. So it's like you're feeling good, right? You're somewhere from optimistic to super joyful and happy. So how do you, oh, hey, James, how are you? I'm so glad you're here. How do you do this? So what it says is it's most powerful to do this as a written practice, to like actually write down what the prompts are going to be for this, but you can also do it driving, walking, thinking, yada. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to get 4 pieces of paper. So 4 different pieces of paper. And at the top of each one, you're going to give them like categories. So you're going to, one is going to be my body. One is going to be my home. I should slow down. One's going to be my body. One's going to be my home. One's going to be my relationships. And one is going to be my work. So you've got body, home, relationships, work. So it's kind of like the 4 general categories that are most important to us, right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to start with, in the book, it says start with my body. I'm going to, just because a lot of my people are following more for like work and money and business. So I'm going to focus on that tonight. But in the book, it says you would just start with my body. So pick where you want to start. Is the moral of the story. Pick which one you want to start with and write. This is what I desire regarding blank category. So let's say this is what I desire regarding my work. Now, the whole process, again, with all of this, this is not about pushing. This is not about forcing. So if this feels hard, especially like if this category feels hard, move on from it. Go on to the next one, because if you start to feel that resistance, it's like that's the opposite of what we're trying to do here. We want to let this be easy. So you would pick a category. So let's say you said, this is what I desire regarding my work. And then you're going to write down what you want. So for example, I want to make more money. I want to feel excited about what I'm doing. I want to feel a stronger sense of purpose. And then you're going to focus on every statement, each statement of desire, and you're going to write the reasons why you want those things. So for example, you say, I want to feel excited about what I'm doing, ... And then you say, because. So why do you want that? Because it feels good to be really interested in what I'm doing, because work is a big part of my life and being happy there is important. Now, here's the part that when I read this tonight, as I was prepping this, I was like, oh, this is super important. And this is why this is so helpful. So I'm just going to read you this little passage. When you think about why you want something, you usually soften resistance. But when you think about when it will come to you, or how it will come, or who will help it to come, you often add resistance, especially if you don't already know the answers to those questions. So remember, like, you get to be attached to the what, but not the how. And then if you start really thinking about how is this going to come, or even when is it going to come, you're usually going to add on more resistance, which is the total opposite of what we're trying to do here. So just let me know as we go too, if you guys have questions, like pop in the comments. Is this making sense? Do you have questions? I want to make sure that this is clear, because this is some creative stuff, and it's good, but it can get a little, it's just deep. Okay. So let me know if you have questions. But I really liked that. And the other part that I liked about it, I didn't know about any of you, like, let me know if you can relate to this. I used to get so stressed out about having to achieve things by a certain date. Any of you guys related to that, where you put a date on your goal card? I talk with my clients about making those, and then you're like, oh my gosh, it's getting closer and closer to the date and nothing has happened yet. And I'm feeling so stressed out and I'm doing this wrong and I might as well just give up. Am I the only one who's ever operated like that? And why I love this is that it really talks about, like, when you just get into the why, like when you try to get into when is it going to happen and all that, you're going to put yourself in a more stressful state, because again, with the when, we're just guessing. And we've talked about this earlier in this series, right? So Jen is saying, oh yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you were here. Bambi's saying yes. Mallory's saying yes. Jamie's saying every 30 days, 0 to hero. Yeah. And so and that's kind of our business cycle. And I get that too, right? Like I have 90-day goals. I have 30-day goals. So I always have those, but when we need to switch the mindset around it to say, this is our estimated target. And this is when we think it's going to happen by. Because if we put, and I know sometimes, especially if you're in corporate, like I know some of you are, it can be challenging to say like, don't put the pressure on yourself. As much as you can internally release the pressure from yourself, because you know now vibrationally, when you put pressure on yourself and stress, you're lowering. So you're actually adding on resistance to that thing coming. Is this making sense? So we have to lessen our attachment to deadlines as much as possible. And what will happen is you'll actually bring in more because you'll have less resistance around it. So just practice trying this and see if it's not true. Okay. So it's like when we can just release that attachment to win and say, this is my estimate. Like, I think it's going to happen by then, but like we've talked about earlier in the series, and like Bob Proctor talks about, we know the gestation period for pretty much everything except an idea. We know it for a baby, right? It's 280 days approximately. We know it for a carrot. I don't know what that amount is off the top of my head, but we know it. We don't know for an idea. And some ideas just take longer to gestate than others. Some goals take longer than others. It doesn't mean they're not coming. Again, when you do these things, it is an exact science and it will come, but we're just guessing at the date. So hopefully this helps you take a little pressure off of yourself with the date and just saying like, this is my guess and I'm going to go for that, but I'm going to have certainty that it is coming. And if it doesn't happen by that date, all that means is I've had some more resistance to it than I thought, or it just needed a slightly longer gestation period. And it's kind of like for anyone who's had a preemie baby, right? Like you don't necessarily want things to come sooner than they're ready, you know? And I think that's, we just have to remember that, like, you can have your thing come sooner than you can have it come by a date, but if it's not fully baked, for lack of better words, it's going to be hard. It's going to be more work. It's not going to be what you're actually looking for. So to allow that full gestation period of the idea, of the manifestation, of the money is actually a really healthy thing to do. I hope that's making sense. So that really spoke to me. I'm just checking comments here real quick. Kim, were you raising your hand because you had a question, or are you just saying hi? Either way, right? It's awesome if you had a question, pop it in the comments. Lee, I'm so glad you're here. It's so awesome to have you, my friend. James is saying, starting to think more in terms of what if the universe wants to bring it in sooner? Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so true, James. And honestly, like God and the universe don't like things to be slow. Like if you look at how things happen, I'm just watching my son develop, like it's fast. It's fast. And so usually what holds things from coming faster is our own resistance to them. That's so true. So I think you brought up such a good point there. And that's why when we can release this resistance and be in the state of allowing, stuff comes in really fast. It doesn't mean there's not somewhat of a gestation period for it to come in and then for the full idea to be born. But like it's our own resistance that pushes this stuff away. Kim, you agreed with the statements. Thank you. I love it. Awesome. James is saying, just trust it and take massive action towards the goals. Yes. And it's that action that's unattached to the outcome. And that was the big shift for me, was realizing, again, I get to be attached to what, but not how. So when you attach yourself to what, all that means is you're having those clear intentions. So those thoughts that match the thoughts you're going to think when the thing has happened. So when you've become that person who I've got women working with me right now who want to have $10,000 months. I've got women working with me who want to have 6-figure months. It's all over the map. It doesn't really matter, but it's when you start thinking the thoughts of the woman who has, let's just say, for example, of the woman who has that amount of money coming in, or the person who has that amount of money coming in, and then you don't contradict it with your emotions. When you start feeling the emotions of what it's going to feel like to have the thing, that's how you release your resistance to it. Then you're not contradicting it with your vibration, with your emotions, and then it can come in quickly. But what happens to your point, James, here is when you're feeling that way and thinking that way, you're going to start to get ideas, and they're going to be small ideas. It's not going to be like a trumpet sounds and you get like a banner dropped in front of you. At least it's never been that way for me. It's been small ideas in my own voice in my head, but they're like, do this, reach out to that person. And it often is, it's small stuff, but it often is things that feel out of your comfort zone. Your only job is to follow those nudges, follow those steps, unattached to the outcome, knowing that when you're staying attached to your goal, but not how it happens, it's coming. It is certain. It must come. And your only job is to follow those instincts. I've learned when I feel good, I really trust my thoughts. So when I feel good, when I'm in a beautiful state, when I'm feeling happy, grateful, all of it, I pay attention to my thoughts and I act on them. When I don't feel good, I try not to push it too much. Like I may get a download, I may get an instinct and I'll act on it. But what happens is when you're in a lower vibration state, you're literally cutting yourself off from God. That's it. And all I can say is like, I've experienced this. I felt the difference when I don't feel good. My thoughts are scattered. They're full of anxiety. They're focused on outer circumstances instead of inner peace and inner knowing. And that actually has to do with your physiology and brain chemistry too. So again, you can follow my boy, Dr. Joe Dispenza, if you want to learn about like the science behind that. But it's true. Lee is saying faster does not always mean better. Yes. I used to be like, let me just get to the destination, get to the destination, get to the destination. But I realized there is no destination, right? There actually is none. And so when we can learn to just feel good along the way and realize the only reason you want anything is because you think it's going to make you feel better, and that you actually have full control over how you feel now by starting to focus and do this type of work we're talking about and not pay attention to not let your feelings be based on outer circumstances, but let them be feelings you choose and you create your own feelings based on your thoughts. Your outer circumstances must shift to match that. But you'll start feeling so good, you won't care. You'll start feeling so good, you won't care about the money. You won't care about the clients, the relationship, whatever. But then they all come because you're at such high vibration. It's how it works. And they come easily and better than you could have imagined. I'm just looking at other comments. So David's saying, I've got SMART goals stuck in my head as I've been so wired towards that, but it sounds like focusing on just the specific and measurable is more important than the attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Yes, I love that. I was never a big SMART goals person. I'm just going to say it. Like I had to teach it for a while for corporate sales training. It was always like, I'm not a big SMART goals person. What I've learned is if you know how you're going to achieve a goal, it's not big enough. It's not big enough. And that's part of the beauty of this whole process is, I was talking with someone who's high up in a company earlier this week. And this person was saying like, we always set goals that we know our people can achieve to help them stay motivated. And that's actually not, so I'll have this conversation with this person at some point, but that's not how I would do it. That's not how I would do it. It's again, it's the point of a goal is not the achievement of it. It's who you become in the process of figuring out how does this thing even happen, you know? And so knowing again, the how doesn't matter. You don't care about the hows. You just get to be excited about the thing coming in and happening. And that's your reality and you're claiming it for yourself. But I only set goals now that I have no freaking clue how I'm going to achieve. And it puts you in a place of surrender, I think is a part of what it does is if you approach it this way, the way we're talking about, and allow yourself just to be in a place of surrender about how it's meant to come in, you get in that like beautiful, grateful state about it. And it will blow you away. The people who show up, the ideas that show up, because you get out of your own way. I'm just looking at other comments. Let's see here. Mallory's saying, my mom always said, I would that God would keep X from you. Oh, but from you until it's time. Yeah. I love that. So yeah, I'm with you there. Bambi saying each time you receive, there's always something else you desire. So the journey doesn't end. Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just going to kind of like go back and like over here. Sorry, my friends on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube. I'm trying to manage both things. Yeah. So that's exactly it, Bambi, right? Like we achieve something and then we enjoy it for a few hours, a few days, maybe a few weeks, depending on what it is. But then we want something else. This is like, I was listening to some Abraham Hicks podcast today, and they were talking about like, it was something like, this is why you think your life is perfect when you get married until like 9 days in and you realize that like, oh, this is a human, this is another human being. Right. And it's just, that's the process, or that's why like you hit a big goal and then you you enjoy it, and then you want something else. And we can also really make ourselves wrong for that. And I want to, I've talked about this before, but it's important to remember there's nothing wrong with it. You are wired for expansion. We are in an expanding world and universe. And so it's the way a lot of the metaphysical books will teach it is God is wanting to express himself, itself, herself through you, through that expansion. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually just the divine nature that lives in you that wants to experience fuller expression of life. And so it's really fun when we can just do that, right? And enjoy it and like let the things come in and enjoy them and then get excited about what's next. Because it's actually this whole creative process is like why we're here, right? Learning to recognize the powerful creators that we are and learning to how to practice this and how to create more powerfully and how to just, be masters of the world we're in. Like that's why we're here. All right, guys, is this, so let me know if you guys have questions on any of that. So with this game, going back to, this is so fun. I'm getting on a roll. Okay, going back to the game. So creative workshop. So you're going to play, it recommends play the game once a week for about a month or so, and then like try once a month after. And then it also says, they say, don't try to write everything at once, just write the things that are most immediate in your mind. So again, we've got like these 4 categories of your life that are most important to you. And it's just going to be the things that come easily to you. I want this, I want that, I want this, because this, because that, because this. Just let it be easy. Let it be easy. The second process, because baby monitor is still on. Okay. Second process for tonight is called virtual reality. This is your second and last process for tonight. This is the 4th process. So this one you can use when you're still like in that peak state, but it goes down. It can also be a little bit of a less peak state. So when do you use it? You use it when you're feeling good and you want to practice a vibration of allowing. You use it when you find yourself remembering a pleasant experience and you want to extend the feeling longer and even move it to a better feeling place. And you use it when you have extra time and you wish to spend it in a pleasant way. Okay. So it's kind of like you feel good and you want to milk that feeling, or you want to just, well, let me get into it. I'm going to explain it. I'm going to explain it more here. Your emotional set point range is from peak emotions. So joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, appreciation, all the way down to number 8 on the scale, which is boredom. So you can use this one. Boredom is actually like that gateway into more of the suffering state. So if you're kind of like, I'm on the edge, you're noticing you're starting to tip, this would probably be a good one to use in that instance. So here's, gosh, I got to tell you guys, when I was reading about this one, it was like, oh, this actually makes sense. Kim, I noticed your question. Let me get back to that. That's a really good question. Why do we do this? Why would we do this virtual reality process? So just coming back to what this whole series is about, right? We go back to the law of vibration. Everything in our world and our universe has a frequency. Okay. So everything, even though it looks solid, these are tiny moving particles in this glass. Your body is made up of tiny moving particles. Even Bob Proctor gives this example of like even a dead body, which sounds weird, right? But he's like, it's moving because if you look at it, it's dissolving into dust, right? And so that's like, it's actually moving. Everything is moving. We live in an ocean of motion, right? So frequency, everything has a frequency. And that's what the law of vibration states, is everything vibrates. Okay. So we live in a vibrational universe and everything is managed by the law of attraction. So the law of vibration is actually one of it's like the core law, which is that everything has a vibration and a frequency. The law of attraction is a secondary law under that, which says like attracts like. So whatever your frequency is, you're going to attract things that are on that same frequency. That's why you say, why do I keep attracting my dad in relationships? Or why do I keep attracting the same person in relationships? It's because your frequency is the same. Okay. Your frequency is the same and it hasn't changed. So you're going to keep getting just more and more people who are that same frequency as you. Okay. So the universe, let me go back to where I was here. Yes. So you get what you think about, whether you want it or not. Because when you think about it, your emotions match it, and things of a similar vibration must come in to match it. This is making sense, right? It's actually pretty, when you start thinking about it, like logically, it actually makes sense. So thinking about something, you have a certain level of emotion that's generated by that. And then things that are similar level frequency, because your emotion tells you what your frequency is, will come in to match it. Hey, Michelle, I'm so glad you're here. Okay. So the universe responds to your vibrational. Oh, this is good. This is good. And I have a side story on this. So listen, if you've been zoning out, listen to this part. The universe responds to your vibrational offering, to your point of attraction, to the thoughts you think, and to the way you feel. Not what has already been manifested in your experience, but instead to the manifestation you are offering now. So what that's saying is that it doesn't really matter what your reality is, like your physical world right now, what you have created, your home, your relationship, your job, your business, the money you're coming in. It's all just been the manifestation of your thinking and feeling and actions up until this point. That's very logical, right? But you can set a new frequency really fast by starting to think different thoughts and feel different feelings. And the universe doesn't care what you've already done. It's whatever you are feeling and thinking in the present moment becomes your new point of attraction. So if you have questions on this, pop them in the comments. But I had a big aha about this while I was prepping this, because I've shared some of my own story here about why I got so like fascinated about studying this. But my own experience was when I started really practicing this, I had this major leap where like I've been having like $10,000 months, like the amount of money I brought in every month was about $10,000 every month in and month out with slight shifts. But that was kind of like what I was used to bringing in for years and years and years, regardless of what I was doing. And I started studying frequency. I started studying vibrational set point and implementing what we're talking about. And then in 6 weeks, jumped to 6-figure months. There's nothing logical about that. And it wasn't like I got some great funnel going. It wasn't like I hired a new team. It was I did what we're talking about. And the shift was so massive, so fast. And then that has continued, like that amount of money has continued to come in every month. And you play by different rules when you do this stuff. And when it still kind of blows my mind, because it's like, it doesn't make any sense, right? Because you're taught you've got to make these incremental gains and you've got to make those small, slight changes. And yes, that you can create that way when you're playing by the rules that most people play by in the world. But when you learn to create using the quantum model, which is what we're talking about here, which is energy, everything happens way faster. Like it can happen so fast for you, because I think all that I did was I learned how to set my vibration higher. And it sounds so simple and easy. And of course there was action involved in it, but that was it. And so regardless of where you are right now, you can have a pretty quick change in your outer experience by learning to practice this. Because again, the universe doesn't care about what you've already created. It cares about what are you offering right now, right now, right now, right now, right now. What's the feeling that you're having right now, right now, right now, right now, right now? Are you in a beautiful state? Are you feeling gratitude, joy, love, peace, abundance, like all of those feelings that are the feelings you're going for with the thing you want to create? Well, guess what? You can feel them now, and then you become a vibrational match to all of those things, and they must come to you. So it's a different way to create, but most people, and this was me for most of my life because I didn't know any different, we are conditioned to pay attention to our outer world, right? We're conditioned to pay attention to the people, the circumstances, the things that are going on around us, and let that dictate how we feel. Well, when you're constantly just paying attention to that, it tends to be the same day in and day out, and you're going to keep feeling the same day in and day out. And also you're giving your power away to other people. So if you watch something bad on the news, then, which of course it's going to be something bad on the news because that's what the news is, then you're going to feel bad in your body. And then you're actually going to attract more bad things in your life because you're a vibrational match for that. That's why I stopped watching scary movies, which I used to love. It's why I stopped mostly stopped reality TV. I haven't totally stopped it. That's why if I'm in a lower vibration, y'all, I'll be honest, I'll turn on some reality, but I feel like I catch it soon anyhow. But it's like giving your power away to stuff outside of you. So amazing things can flow into your experience in life really fast when you stop paying attention to what's happening outside and start focusing on your inner state. And this is in The Science of Getting Rich. My boy Wallace Wattles, what a name, right? He talks about the work. I think the quote is, "The work from which most men shrink is to think truth regardless of appearances." To think truth regardless of appearances. Now, is it outdated language? Yes. Would we say the work from which most people shrink? Yes. Like it was written early 1900s. Okay, but grasp the concept of that, of what he's saying there. It is the hardest work in the world to look around you and say, this is not my truth. This may have been the truth of what I created up until this point, but it's not the truth of what I'm creating now. Unless you love it and then say, more please, thank you, more please, yes. But that's it. But it's that mental work, it's that inner game, it's that discipline of every day using these practices and getting really in tune with how you're feeling and constantly focusing on, how do I elevate my feelings? This is just like kind of like a side thing, but one thing, it's felt silly to me, but it's helped, so I'll just share it. Something I do during the day, sometimes if I notice I'm like starting to dip, is I'll imagine that I'm like turning a radio dial, and I'll kind of just like tune into how I feel. And I'll do this, and I actually feel my vibration raising when I'm doing it. I feel my frequency raising when I'm doing that. So it's just this little like physical mental thing, but it helps. So you can try that. It's not one of these practices necessarily we're talking about here, but it's your bonus practice from Elise. So, okay. So we are going to talk about, how do you do virtual reality? And if you guys have any questions, pop them in the comments, because after I'm done with this, I'm going to go in and answer questions. So what you do is you're going to use this amazing faculty that you've been given that that animals don't have, that bugs don't have, that plants don't have. You're going to use this amazing faculty that you've been given, which is your imagination. And most of us stop using this around the age of like 4 or 5, right? Because you were sitting there daydreaming in class, and they're like, come back, focus. And you actually learn that your imagination is bad and wrong, and you need to focus on what's at hand. And so we stop using it. But your imagination is incredible. And every amazing invention that you use now started in someone's imagination, one person's imagination, whether the airplane or your cell phone or your car, it all started as a thought. So we just forget what amazing creators we are. And we pay more attention to like the movies and reality TV and social media, forgetting that you can be the director of your own life. If you will just believe what I'm telling you here, like you can be the director of your own life, and you can create your own movie that you actually get to live in every day, that gets to be amazing, that gets to be your own version of nirvana, of heaven on earth. And it's powerful, but you've got to learn how to tap into your imagination. And so visualization is a lot of what we're talking about in this series, right? And I've told you guys, I used to have a challenge with visualizing, because I was like, well, it hasn't happened. How do I picture it yet? Just think about, with visualization, you're creating a memory of something that hasn't happened yet. Like if you can think back and think to a memory of a time in your life that was powerful for you, you're doing the exact same thing here. You're just thinking forward. That's it. But so what you're going to do is you're going to create a scene in your mind that feels really good to you. And you're going to get very specific. So think about it like if you were the director of your own movie, and you're going to think about like, where is this? Who am I with? What am I wearing? What are they wearing? What's the weather? What's the, what's the temperature outside? What's happening right now? How am I feeling? And you're going to get really, really specific, creating this beautiful dream scene in your mind. Now, this is a process that I use, and frankly, I could get more specific with it. I do this in the mornings. I visualize what I want, but I think it could definitely be more specific. So I'm excited to practice this one myself. But it's visualizing something you want. So it's important when you're doing this, not to use this process to try to improve something that's not working for you right now, because all you're going to do is your mind's going to end up going to something that's not working and it's just going to kind of focus in on that. And that's not what we're going for here. But think about like, what's the thing you want, right? Like whether it's you see yourself on stage at your company conference, accepting an award, and you see yourself looking out over all of your colleagues and giving your acceptance speech, and like you feel the feeling and you see the faces and you see what you're wearing and you feel that just amazing awe of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening right now. Or maybe you're imagining that you're on a vacation, you know, you're on these white sandy beaches of Hawaii and you're putting yourself there and you're just daydreaming and just having fun with it and just getting really clear and specific and creating that scene in your mind. Because we have to remember everything is created twice. You create everything twice, first in your mind, then in physical reality. And that's another universal law, the law of perpetual transmutation, which is that energy is always moving into and out of form. So the thing that you want, the thing you're creating in your mind is as real here as it will be when it's manifested in your physical world, okay? But you're just changing the form of it. It's like water exists in all these different forms, whether it's rain, whether it's sleet, whether it's ice, whether it's snow, and it's just the conditions of the environment that determine the form it's in. It's the exact same thing with what you're visualizing and with the reality you want to create. You're just changing the form. And to do that, you need to create the right conditions for it to come in. The conditions are making your thoughts and your emotions coherent with what they will be when that thing comes in. So that's all you're doing. One other thing that they said here in this chapter, and then I'm going to look at questions. The only reason you don't have complete well-being and anything that you want in life is because you're in a bad mood, angry, or worried about something. Like that's it. And those things create resistance to the thing you want from coming in, which if you've been following for a few days now, you understand why that is, right? So doing this exercise is going to help train you to feel good more often. And it's going to help you raise your kind of your set point, your emotional set point, which is going to allow more good to come in more frequently. So it's really fun. And if you do it, nothing more for than just like the relief that you feel for a few minutes while you do it, that's worth it. Like that is worth it because you're actually shifting your vibration. And if you do it unattached, I would just say, do this unattached to the thing ever coming in or happening, but just say, I just want to feel better. Like I'm just doing this to feel better in the moment and just have fun and enjoy it. And then you will actually start to bring it in if you do this consistently enough. So, two quick invitations, and then I'll do questions. So I felt very called, just like I felt called to do this series. I decided to do a workshop, and I think it's going to be at the end of this month. I'm still like getting the downloads for it, but on how to turn your annual income into your monthly income. And it's really fun and it's really exciting and it's really just enjoyable and juicy. And so I would say, like, especially for my entrepreneurs, for my salespeople out there who are watching, I'm telling you guys, I used to hear this stuff and think this is such baloney, or I would think like, oh, it could happen for him or her, but not for me. Y'all, the reason I'm showing up at 8 o'clock at night when I'm usually like, I've taken my bath and I'm ready for bed. I'm like such an old lady. The reason I'm showing up here at night with you is because this stuff is so important, because it's real, because it works. And the more financial relaxation and flow you have in your life, the more you can do, the more purpose you can live out, the more you can serve and impact. And so embracing more money and more abundance and more resources coming into your life is a really beautiful thing. And so I'm going to teach you because, like I said, when it happened for me, it was so fast. I was like, what happened? And I shared with you tonight some of what happened, but I've actually dissected it and taken like a step by step of here's what to do and here's how I did it. And so I just want to invite you, like, if you want me to send you the invitation when it's ready, send me a DM. It is going to be a paid workshop, but it's going to be low ticket. It's going to be under $500. And it's going to be, I think, a half-day workshop where I'll actually coach you and work with you on helping you dissolve limiting beliefs, on helping you create your plan for how you're going to do it. So just send me a DM if you want me to invite you. it's open to everyone. This is not like some of my brand is well, all my brand is she sells, but I love all of you who are here, regardless of your gender. And this is open to anyone. So send me a DM. I'll send you the information on how you can get registered. And then also I would just invite you, like, if you haven't subscribed to She Sells Radio yet, that's kind of my baby and what I'm really enjoying right now. So if you enjoy this type of conversation and you want more great content about how do you sell with more ease and flow, how do you bring in more financial abundance, and you want to hear from other 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure earners about how they did it and how they did it differently, subscribe. I'm sure I'm biased, but I think it's pretty good, y'all. So let me check comments. Mallory's saying, I wrote down all that is all ready to come and I feel so much better already. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And just that feeling, like, notice. So now you know when you feel better, your vibration is raising, your resistance is dropping. And so it's just coming back to that and noticing what are the practices for you that help you feel better in the moment, and doing more of those. Like, I've got certain things I listen to, and I know when I listen to them, they're going to help me. If I'm feeling resistance, they're going to help me dissolve it. So I've got my boy Bob Proctor, right? Who's amazing. My girl, Allison Chavez, Joe Dispenza, Abraham Hicks. Like, these are kind of my go-tos that help me get out of my own crappy thinking that sometimes pops up and helps release resistance. But notice for you, is it writing one? Is it like one of the practices we talked about tonight? Is it something else? But do that again and again and again, so that once you start feeling it here, and I keep pointing here because what happens with these processes is your heart opens up. I can't explain it any other way except you'll know it when it happens for you. Like, your heart will open up and you'll feel this feeling of gratitude and deep connection, regardless. It has nothing to do with what's happening in your outer world. It has nothing to do with it, but you'll feel it here. And you feel like and I'm feeling it right now. I feel this deep connection and deep gratitude. And it's so profound. Like, my husband tonight, we were watching Bob Proctor during dinner because he knows I like it. And I started crying because I felt, it was like, oh my God, this is so true and real. And I feel so grateful that I now understand this. He's like, I can't even be around you right now. Like, it's too much. It's too much emotion. But you'll feel it, and you'll be able to conjure that more and more. That's that feeling of when you've got no resistance and the good stuff is coming to you. And that's when you want to use a lot of these practices we've talked about here in this series. Okay, Kim is saying, how do you know if a goal is too low or too high? That's such a great question, Kim. My response would be, it's too low if you know how to do it. And it's too, so for a financial goal, let's just use a financial goal, for example. Money has to have a purpose. So I wouldn't say, like, my monthly financial goal is not $1 million a month right now. It's not, because frankly, I know what I would do with it. So I probably could set it there, but that almost feels too stretchy for me right now, if that makes sense. It's probably it's a limiting belief, right? That's a limiting belief, but that is where I am. So I'm choosing something that feels very stretchy. And I had a goal that I had never achieved before that I set for the next couple of months. And I shared it with my husband. He was like, you're thinking too small. Why aren't you doing this amount, which is about twice it? And I noticed immediately I had a thought of, oh, that's too much. I couldn't do that in a month. And then I was like, oh, that's my edge. So, but it wasn't so stretchy that it put me into just, that'll never happen. I could never even get there. So I hope that makes sense. So I like to choose something that's stretchy enough that you don't know how it's going to happen. But let me go back to what I was saying. Money has to have a purpose. So with your financial target, I was working with a client today who wants, she wants to have kind of the same jump I had, which is, 100% possible. Like, anyone can do it. But what I told her to do is she needs to figure out, what is that money going to be for? So that money has to have a purpose. So especially with your financial targets, I wouldn't just pick a money number. I would say, what's the purpose of the money? Like, what do I actually want to do in the next 90 days? And I like to do goals in 90-day chunks because it's long enough that you can do a lot in 90 days, but it's short enough time frame that it's you're not kind of given this illusion of oh, I've got forever to achieve it, and you just don't do anything towards it. So I like to do it in 90 days. What are the things I want to create in my life? So that could be, I want to hire these team members, and that requires this amount of money. I want to go on this vacation and that requires this amount of money. I want to buy this gift for someone that requires this amount of money. That I've got my normal kind of monthly number, monthly nut that I cover as well. So just calculate it. Does that make sense the way I'm explaining it? So calculate it and then put the number on it. And sometimes it'll be more than you were expecting. More often than not, it's actually less. But again, it's kind of that sweet spot of like, I have no idea how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to have to become a different person to achieve it. And I'm going to have to become the person that I actually feel like I'm being called to be right now. I think that's really what's important. But it's not so much that it puts you into panic and just you're like, that's not even my reality. It's not going to happen. So I hope that helps in terms of that question, Kim. And please let me know in the comments if you had other questions on it. Megan's saying my 8-year-old can see blindfolded because she harnesses her imagination. What an amazing, homeschooling, right? I love that. Like, just, I think as parent, for any of you who are parents too, and I'm learning this, like encouraging these qualities in your kids is so important. It's so important because for many of us, they were kind of bred out of us. And then it's like, as adults, we have to come back and we almost feel silly with some of this stuff, right? It may feel silly to say, oh, go do your creative workshop or do your imagination. But no, it's actually like, it's the smartest thing you can do to help achieve what you want. So it's critical. So if we can help raise kids who are encouraged to do this and are encouraged to cultivate their imagination and are encouraged to think big for themselves, like they don't have to unlearn as much. And that's a gift, in my opinion. That's a gift we can give them. Do you guys have any other questions on any of this? I think I'm done. I've reached the end of my road. Again, if you want to get information on the workshop on how to turn your annual income into your monthly income, send me a DM. I'll send you the link to register when it's ready. Subscribe to She Sells Radio. And if you're enjoying this, then remember every Monday through Thursday night in April, I'm going to be going live at 8 o'clock Eastern and sharing these practices. So I'm not live tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is time off. But Monday night, we're going live again. I've got an awesome one I'm sharing with you on Monday that I've been doing for a while. That's like, it's really good and it's fun. So I'm excited to share that with you. So anyone have questions? Hey, Matt, Beth, Tim, Lauren, it's so good to see you guys. So we're just wrapping up here. So if you do have any questions though on what we talked about, Bambi, I'm so glad you're enjoying it. You're welcome. It's wonderful to have you here. And I know it's an hour later where you are, so I'm grateful for you hopping on late night. Any other questions, guys? Any takeaways, like biggest takeaway from tonight? I feel like sometimes I kind of like go all over the place with these because I get excited and then I just have all these thoughts. So I hope that this was clear. But if you had any questions, anything to clarify or biggest takeaway, I am here for it. I'll give people a moment. If you're typing. But again, the biggest thing with all of this is just like focus on feeling good. And if you're skeptical of any of what I'm talking about, because I was the biggest skeptic. Just look at the results in your life and look at how much you like them. And if you don't love all of them, why don't you try another way? Why don't you try another way and just see? And if you try this and you find out I'm full of crap, then go back to your way. Okay. That's what I would offer. Bambi saying definitely the creative workshop. Yeah, that's really good. I'm curious. I'm excited, Bambi, when you try this. Maybe on one of our coaching calls, you'll share how it's going for you, but I'm really curious how you're liking that. That's great. Okay, guys, well, I'm going to assume we're good. So much love and gratitude to each of you who joined live tonight. Send me a DM with questions too, if you had any, and just wishing you a beautiful evening. So grateful for you. And I hope you'll join me again on Monday night for our next installment. All right, guys, lots of love. Take care. Have a great night.